Hey, I'm Adam Bunting, principal of Seaview High School, and I'm here today with Ty Sells from Youth to Youth. He is a drug and alcohol prevention specialist and a very funny man, and we are fired up to have a conversation.
Thanks for having me here. This is awesome to be up here, so thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you, and I know our students and community are going to be pleased to hear your thoughts. And
all right.
So one thing that we were just talking about before we got started was actually a common frustration that we both share around trying to help people understand what prevention actually is. So I didn't know if you wanted to share some of your thoughts. I can share some of mine when you're done. But
great. Yeah, the way I look at it, and the program I work with has looked at it forever, is the idea that instead of working in silos, like this thing happens, so let's react to that. This thing happens, so let's go prevent that now. This thing happens. We look at it more of the development is the prevention. So quick story that made me think about it years ago when I first started doing this type of work. I was invited to do an in-service for a school. And as each of the teachers came in, I was really nervous. I was super young back then. And as each of them came in, I would say, well, what do you teach? And they'd say math. What do you teach? Science. What do you teach? Spanish. And I finally said, what do you teach? And she goes, kids. Like, I teach young people. And I'm like, oh yeah. So instead of, now she did have an area of expertise, but she never lost focus that the most important thing of what we do is create a connection with young people. And then we get to help develop their skills, work with their skills. And it's that skill development that is the actual prevention. Young people that have that skill development, less likely to use alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, less likely to get pregnant underage, less likely to participate in alcohol. And, many of these other things, bullying, less likely to bully. Many of these other things, if we focus on the young person developing their skills, turns out that it prevents a lot of these things that we get funded separately for.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I've been serving on the Governor's Opioid Coordinating Council for the past year. And at the same time, there's been a national discussion on school safety and gun violence.
That's
and
right.
I get really frustrated when I see people being like, oh, let's talk about prevention in this context, in this context. I'm like, no, it's the same thing.
That's right.
And we get focused here on the 40 developmental assets.
Love those, yeah.
And for me, I think like where we'd really align is that idea of the relationships. And I always put a word in front of that. That's authentic relationship.
That's right.
I had a student say to me last week, he's like, I really need teachers who are more than just professional. They're here because they love it, and they're here because they care about us. And then there's something about that authenticity there. Like, what do you think about authenticity?
Well, I think it's the part of the authentic is it's two ways.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things
Right.
I just need to know them, what are their interests, what do they like, and I can use that information to help impact them or impart my wisdom to them, right? I say, how do we involve young people in their own education, in their own learning? How do we pull them in? And that means I got to give up a little of who I am too. Like, I can't act like I'm one person and then actually be someone else, and I think that they appreciate that. I was talking, you're a dad, right?
Yep.
How old are the kids?
I have how old are they? 13 and 11, and they are headed this way shortly. So.
Okay, can they edit out that how old are they?
Yeah, I know. They know, I forget all the time.
All right, well mine, I have triplet 15-year-olds, right? And then I have a baby, I have a 16-month-old.
You say that, so you triplet 15?
Yeah, 2 boys and a girl, right? And so the idea that I can know what to each of them needs prevented is, it's absurd. Like
right.
But what I know is I want to be really connected with them. I want to be really close to them. I want to so that whatever comes up, I'm prepared to work with, and they're going to trust me in that. And the other part of that is sometimes I got to say I'm wrong. Sometimes I mess up. Sometimes I was talking how one of my sons, Tanner, did something that I was bothered with the other day, but I got louder, angrier, more upset than I really want to get. Not that I should have, but more than I want to get. And as I walked away, I had to stop and say, dude, come here, I'm sorry. Like, that was on me. I'm not cool with what you did, but I have to let you know I'm not cool with what I did either. So, right. And then that buys me some respect. Like, he gets that, all right, Dad's gonna screw up sometimes, and I'm not thinking I'm perfect, but to be able to be that open with them is as authentic as I can be. We can all be authentic about the stuff that's great about us, right? Like we can live in that all we want. The authenticity, you start to see that when I'm comfortable with the things I'm not great at too, and I'm gonna still let you in on those. That's how you start that relationship off. Asking for help, asking for forgiveness. It's all part of it.
Yeah, your story makes me think about the importance of teaching our kids that it's okay to struggle.
Yeah.
And the importance of, like, just that resilience comes from that struggle. And I just feel like so often these days, kids are taught that they have to be happy all the time. And then all of a sudden, they don't feel like they're normal when they're struggling, and they look around and see, that kid looks happy, that kid looks happy, that kid looks happy, and I'm not. What's the deal?
Yeah.
And so I just something about your story brought that out.
Yeah. When I was younger, I learned real quick. I didn't have a ton of athletic ability. I wasn't the smartest kid, so I always set the bar low for myself. So I could always try. And so what my goal was always was contentment.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be content. And it turns out, shooting for content, if I live in content, I feel happy a lot. Like, I can't tell the two of them off and apart, you know. And we do, and it's weird because it ties into education and some of this other stuff that we talk about when it comes to drugs and you know, just them dealing their mental health. So what do we tell them? No pain is acceptable. This is in the world that we live in now. 2 countries can market prescription drugs, us and New Zealand. So what we do, we've sent the message that there is 0 room for pain. Like if I say to you, I have a headache, I need in.
Right, aspirin, Advil, Tylenol.
There's 20 things we can do that have nothing to do with medication. Take a nap, you know, but drinks, you know, get some water, eat something, constant, you know, whatever. There's a whole bunch of things that can be done that have nothing to do with medicine, but we've said to them, any pain can be fixed. You shouldn't be feeling any pain. I had a surgery recently, and I woke up with a bottle of pills next to me, 75 oxys next to me, and I use none of them. Not because I'm tough. Everybody will tell you there's not a tough bone in me. But the idea is that I had a surgery. There's going to be a little bit of pain, and you move on. I'm also hearing, and I don't spend a lot of time working with education. I never second guess educators, but the idea that we're raising a lot of kids that can pass any test. That not pass, excel at any test, but then don't know how to function in life. That I can get into the college that I thought that I really wanted to get into, but once I'm at that college, I don't know, I can't handle my laundry, I can't handle if something goes the wrong way, if I schedule a class, then got closed out of that class, I don't know how to do, and what I'm hearing is these higher education systems, their mental health systems are packed full, and there's waiting lists because people don't know how to respond to the issues that actually are confronting them. Some of the smartest kids on the planet don't know how to respond to life.
Yeah,
you know?
I was looking, yesterday I had this awesome talk with two of our seniors here who are getting ready to go onto college, and they're telling me just how stressed out they are, and their definition of what success meant was so narrow.
Yeah.
And they knew it, which was the funny part, and they recognized that a lot of what they were feeling was a social pressure, and intellectually they could talk about it, but emotionally they were still struggling with it. And one comment that a young woman made that just kind of hit me, I think, as a dad. She said, you know, ever since I started driving, I've started feeling a little bit less connected because I don't sit with my parents in the car anymore, and like that's our time together to talk. And then all of a sudden that's gone, and she used the perfect word. She's like, it feels like our interactions are all transactional. Like you're going here, you're going there. And she was talking about, man, I just really am craving like a connection.
Yeah.
And that just hit me in terms of like we talk about mental health. To me, it all starts with that universal precaution of connection.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And that's the biggest thing. You know, I hear a similar story from teens that have gone on to college from our programming, that they go away and they say, what we miss are the things that used to drive us crazy at home. So my parents always wanted to do game night. I didn't want to do game night. And then when I get up to college, all I want to do is go back into a game night with them, you know, and and I'm getting that point. Like, I don't want to get emotional. I'm not comfortable with my feelings or your feelings. But my kids they're the temps. They're about to get their temps. And you saying that just made me realize how much time do we joke and have fun and play and talk in the car, just because they're all super busy, just because they all are. But how much time of my time with them is on our way somewhere else? You know?
Yeah, and that's like a question that I have is like, where do we put boundaries around our time? And I think about that in the school year too. This connects back to me. So the last summer, and I won't go too long about this, I was studying Iceland a little bit. And
who wouldn't want to study Iceland?
Right? So they've got this, 20 years ago, they were sort of the worst offenders in drug and alcohol use in all of Europe.
Yep.
And 20 years later, they now have the best success rates and the lowest use. And so everyone in the world saying, how did they do that? Like, how do you actually change a culture like that? And one of the basic premises they used was that you have to, it's not just talking to kids about prevention, like you actually have to change what they do. So the government gave a stipend to every family to have, I think it was like a $500 stipend where every kid would be engaged in an interest-based activity of some kind. But they were putting the boundaries around, saying, "Oh, we have to do this, right?" Yeah. And like in the school, in the school, we don't always put boundaries around. Like, yeah, there's so much college pressure. Like, how do we make a time for kids to explore their interests, explore their values, without it being polluted by some of these other things?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think that's huge. There's if you ever read Chasing the Scream, that's a book that talks about some of these different countries and how they're approaching dealing with some of these issues. And again, primarily around alcohol, tobacco, other drugs, primarily around opiates in some of these cases. But the reality is what they're meeting is that whole different set of needs. Connection is what every one of us craves. We're built for that. One of our, food, water, shelter, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Food, water, shelter. Everybody gets that. You're not going to become self-actualized without food, water, shelter. But what's on that next rung? A sense of belonging. Like, we have to feel like we connect. We have to feel like we're part of something. And we will, and by we I mean young people as well, will do things, even if it hurts us, just to fit in.
Yeah.
Right? So if we can't find a way, and it's funny because you espouse and we talk about this idea as adults, like, some resistance is okay, it's good. Well, it's sometimes easier for us when they're like, Dad, I don't want to do it. Okay.
Right.
It's easier than fighting, so we just let it go. And are we doing what's tough? No, come on. We're all going to do this together.
Yeah.
We're all going to talk.
Yeah,
hang out together.
I'm listening and I'm feeling just like such a hypocrite right now because I realize that part of it's my job and the amount of interactions that I have, but the amount of transactional interactions I can even just have in this building.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be so intentional about putting the phone away, about making that space.
Yeah, I'm walking in your school. I'm here for a half hour. I'm not even talking to your kids, and I'll be leaving. So you're being here. I do notice that schools that seem to get it is the one where the principal knows the student. So I've been in meetings before, and certain principals will say, "Oh wait, we got to cut this off." They'll go out for the 4 minutes or whatever it is, and hang out in the hallway and talk to the kids as they pass through. I don't know if you do that or not. I heard you're principal of Life. Is that what it was? You're in Life's World's Greatest Principal, something like that.
I don't know.
But I'm guessing you get the idea that where those opportunities present themselves, you have to take them. And we also have to operate on a good, better, best type of scale. Right. Like, are we getting more connection-y? Like, not everything can be it. So if it's in the car, then take advantage of the car. If it's on a weekend, then take advantage. If it is scheduled, then fine. But none of us, it's all a process. Like, none of us are going to get it right. And there's no reason to feel hypocritical. It's like, are you actually working to do it? Right. Are you finding ways to add more? And then time will start freeing up, also another book that talks about work-life balance. It's not I get 8 hours here and then I get 8 hours here.
Right.
It's there's times I'm going to do 20 hours over here on the work side, but am I making sure to take the 20 hours on the life side as well? It's not every 2 hours, they don't just trade off. There are windows of time. I'm on the road. I'm going to be on the road for 4 days. I'm not going to see my kids till Thursday, right? I've been gone already for several days. I'm not going to see them till Thursday. That doesn't, so now what I got to do is make sure when I'm there, that's not balance. That's me at work doing this. When I'm there, I got to be locked in on them for a while.
So that makes me think of a good question that I think we should ask ourselves. And in my family, like, what's your family's wood stove? Because growing up, we had this wood stove in our house, and my dad was a little conservative with the heat and the rest of the house, so like the family would congregate around this wood stove just because.
That's great.
Where else were you going to go?
That's
great,
and
it was warm, and all of a sudden you're having conversations. It's like, what's your basketball hoop? Where like it just brings that out.
Yeah.
And be opportunistic about it.
Ironically, the thing that we used to talk about being the big danger was the TV.
Yeah,
right? And now since we all have TVs on our phones and our kids all have TVs on our phones, they can all go to their separate rooms. I won't allow my kids to have their own TV, and I don't let them take their phones into the rooms. So what it is the TV has kind of become so we all have a show. And what we can do now is pause it, talk about it, joke about it. We can watch some reality, pick who's going to win Big Brother. We can have some debates and arguments. And that's, oddly enough, what used to be something we were all afraid of would tear the family apart has become, at least for me, a chance for us to say, hey, we got this time. You're not allowed to watch this show without me.
No double screening.
Yeah, that's right. You're not allowed
screen.
to watch it without me. So.
Cool.
I never thought of you recommending that, but it is, at least it's one way we do it, so that's one way we get it done.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Great. Thank you.